Yeah, you mentioned the communication with the Great Britain media, and I read your interview in Express, co-UK.
Yes.
And you told them that those triangle UFOs, which are seen across the United States, not all of them might be extraterrestrial coming, so they are probably made by human. How come? It was the turning point for me, because those lights in the sky, it's always in your mind that it's something from the universe, but not from the earth.
Well, this gets to something extremely important that every person on this planet needs to understand. These craft that turned up en masse in 1947, let's refer primarily to the saucers, all right, the saucer craft, which are the most common. They don't run on oil or gas or coal, all right. They have a different energy system, undoubtedly a profoundly, significantly better energy system. And they're anti-gravitic. They don't fly like an airplane. They literally can negate gravity. Now, those two technologies alone could transform the planet that we're currently living on. Meaning that we have 7.5 billion people. We're heading to 9 billion people. We can't support that many people. We've polluted virtually every river in the world. We're polluting the oceans. In fact, we're now radiating the entire Pacific. We're creating problems in the atmosphere. 20 to 25, and sometimes 30,000 young adults or kids under the age of 16 die every day because they either don't have enough food, enough water, or enough hygiene. Every day. That's something like 10 million a year. And these shortages and other issues still have the nations of the world at each other's throat, while we still have 25,000 nukes or more still in existence. We're heading into deep, deep waters. We cannot support the structures now. And the institutions that are designed to do that are starting to break down. Meanwhile, the U.S. government, at least, and very possibly the Russian government, because the Soviet Union controlled a huge amount of space for many years. And so the fact that we had several crashes in the United States of these craft, which were then retrieved by our government, it's very likely there had been a crash or two within Soviet or Russian territory. And so it's always been assumed by the researchers, and the leading researcher on the Soviet Union and Russia is Paul Stonehill, who currently lives in the United States, that they have these vehicles as well. What does that mean? I can assure you, when the United States obtained these craft, these non-human extraterrestrial craft, they didn't stick them in a big storeroom like the Ark of the Covenant in Indiana Jones and the Ark of the Covenant. They have been studying those technologies from day one, and there is increasing evidence that they have successfully built their own re-engineered versions of anti-gravitic propulsion. And based upon what we already know about ground state fields, zero-point fields from our own physics, we believe they've figured out the energy systems. Those two technologies are being suppressed. They are not available to the human race because they are behind the truth embargo on this issue. And the government of the U.S. knows, and I think other governments know, that if they have any of this technology, that if they suddenly bring it out, everybody will realize, oh, that's extraterrestrials, isn't it? So they are here, aren't they? And they don't want that yet. And so those technologies have been sequestered for decades, while the human race has gone deeper and deeper into deep waters. This is outrageous. This is, I call it a crime against humanity, but I know the policies are primarily national security based. They certainly didn't want this to come out during the Cold War because it was too uncertain what would happen, and you had all these nukes literally pointed at each other. Since the Cold War has ended, though, the basis for this has gone away, or at least been reduced. And so, because they have been re-engineering these technologies, eventually, and I think as early as the 60s, the late 1960s, some of these craft people have been seeing are human versions. The triangles are particularly interesting because I think initially they weren't able to get the anti-gravitic propulsion version, human versions, into craft that small. These incredible saucers, which are literally built out of single constructions, not a seam on them. And so they built larger triangle type structures that they can fit it in. But then some of these triangles that turn up are football fields wide. And so the consensus in the researchers that I deal with is that some of these very large triangles are extraterrestrial, some of the smaller ones may very well be human. And I think they have eventually were able to create saucer versions of these anti-gravitic propulsions. Now, what energy system they're using, we don't know, but it wouldn't shock me if we're using extraterrestrial type energy systems. Right. Again, this is transformative, this is profound, and it is being held from the human race, the entire human race, for, quote, national security reasons, but mostly because the military intelligence complex in the United States has created a constitutional breach. They have violated the Constitution, which is illegal, and they've done it for so long that they just can't bring themselves to raise their hand and say, sorry, and let's get this out. Most of them are sitting there going, well, you know, let it be somebody else's problem. So the advocacy movement's role is to temporarily close that breach long enough for the disclosure to come out. Now, there's other problems and other programs that are hidden from heads of state, which is wrong. But we can get to those later. And so that's the complicated answer to the fact that there's craft up there which almost certainly are human in origin. Why the military intelligence complexes allow these to be seen at all is interesting. But they have to fly them. They have to do research, and but again, by and large, there is no way to know, except in extreme cases, whether what you're seeing now is human or extraterrestrial. But it doesn't matter that we have human versions. If there's just one extraterrestrial craft in our skies, that's enough. That confirms the extraterrestrial presence. And that is more than enough to warrant full disclosure.